So the World Cup squad has been announced, and South Africa have named a 15-man squad with three traveling reserves. And we're going to be talking about the squad. We're going to be talking about the players that maybe perhaps missed out. We're also going to talk about the guys that have been selected, and we're going to have a discussion on the show today about the World Cup squad. Not only did the World Cup squad get announced, but there was also an update from the test that's currently happening. That's going to be taking place very shortly. I think it's we start on Thursday at the Oval, and Keegan Peterson has been speaking to the media, and he gave some excellent insight into certain things that I would like to maybe discuss if there's time a little bit later. But there is an article on cricketfanaticsmag.com right now that will give you that information. So after the show, if you want to just go ahead, if we don't get to it after the show, maybe you can go to cricketfanaticsmag.com and then go and read that article. It also has the full press conference of Keegan Peterson in it as well. But before we get into today's topic, which is all about the World Cup squad, I don't want you guys to get too eager in the live chat. Let's talk about this with us. Let's comment along the conversation. Otherwise, we're going to miss comments, and I want to hear all of your comments as much as possible. But before we get going, please download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. You guys can also help us grow South African cricket by becoming a patron today. It will also help us promote South African cricket and South African cricket businesses, etc., to help grow the game in South Africa. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. Also, smash the like button, comment, and share with your friends and family. Without further ado, let's get straight into today's show. It's a lot to cover today, guys, so bear with me. I'm looking forward to discussing this with you guys. Sorry, guys, I don't know what happened there.
Round three commence.
Get that on repeat. Great way to start this particular show. Welcome to the show, guys. I'm your host, Khalid. This is the Daily Show, where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket. This is my co-host today, Werner, and we're going to be discussing the World Cup squad, of course. Now, let's just get the press conference, the presser up and just read some of the things that has taken place so that I can give you guys some insight before I show you the squad. So, Cricket South Africa and the selection committee today named the squad of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in Australia. Let me bring it up on screen for you guys so that you can maybe look with me. I think it would be a lot better to do it that way, actually, to be honest with you. Let's not get any sound going there. Okay, Cricket South Africa. Okay, white ball captain Temba Bavuma will make his return to the national fold after demonstrating a full recovery from a left elbow injury suffered in the T20I series against India in June. Rassie van der Dussen has been ruled out of the tournament due to a fracture of his left index finger that he sustained during the second test against England in Manchester. He will require surgery and is expected to take up to at least 6 weeks to recover. Crazy. All 15 players are capped, with the 22-year-old Tristan Stubbs receiving his maiden World Cup call-up following an impressive outing in the recent T20I series against England. Other notable selections include Riley Lesau, Wayne Parnell, with the selectors naming 3 travelling reserves in Bjorn Verteen, Marco Jansen, and Andile Peglekwayo. All 18 players are available to play in the T20I series against India from 28 September to 4th October. While a 15-strong player squad has been named for the proceeding 350 over series. The squad departs in India on 23 September. They've given the ODI squad as well, which is exactly the same, they've said. So I don't think we necessarily need to go into that right now. But let's get into the CSA convener of selectors, Victor Mpansang, and what he had to say. This has been a really tough squad to select simply because we had so many players in excellent form over the past few months of performing at a level that made the selectors sit up and notice them. Someone like Tristan Stubbs was not in the frame a year ago, has done incredibly well to force his way into the mix based on performances, and his selection should be an inspiration for every young player out there. We are also delighted to welcome back Captain Temba Bavuma from injury, and we have no doubt his return will further galvanize the team. This group of players showed off their brilliant skill and talent when they overcame England in England recently. These sort of performances only bode well for us heading to the World Cup. Overall, we are delighted with the mix of players that have been chosen and look forward to watching them represent the country in Australia. Then, Director of Cricket Enoch Nkwe also spoke and he said, I would like to congratulate all the players who have made the final cut for the World Cup. Every single one of them deserves their place on the plane to Australia. The squad covers all bases and provides us with multiple options in every area, whether it be batting or bowling. I'm confident this group will make South Africans proud when they begin their campaign next month. Before that, we have an important tour to India beginning the coming weeks and will provide some valuable game time for head coach Mark Boucher and his team to finalize their preparations for the tournament. Now, they've given us a little bit of a group stage itinerary as well for the 2022 World Cup. Monday, 24 October at 10 South African Standard Time, South Africa versus qualifier B1. It will be at the Oval in Hobart. Thursday, 27 October, it will be at 5 a.m. start there, guys. South Africa versus Bangladesh. Sunday, 30 October, a 1 o'clock start, India versus South Africa. Great time for us. Aditya and all of the guys that are going to be obviously talking about that particular game. It's actually a perfect time for us as a group. Thursday, 3 November at 10 South African Standard Time, Pakistan versus South Africa. And then Sunday, 6 November, South Africa versus qualifier A2 at the Oval in Adelaide. Semifinals as follows, as you can see on the screen. The first semi-final is on Wednesday, 9 November at 10 South African Standard Time. Second semi-final will be Thursday, 10 November at 10 South African Standard Time. That doesn't make sense. Oh, yes, it can make sense. Never mind. Yeah, okay. And Sunday, 30 November at 10 South African Standard Time in Melbourne. South Africa tour India itinerary. Here's the T20s on Wednesday, the 28th of September is the first one. No time there. Sunday, 2nd of October, India versus South Africa. Tuesday, 4th of October. And then ODIs Thursday, 6 October, Sunday, 9 October, and then Thursday, 11 October. So that's the dates. That's what's going to be taking place. Let's bring Aditya onto the show as well. Let's now discuss what we need to discuss, and that is the actual selection of the team. So here's the full squad, guys. And we've got Temba Bavuma as captain, Quentin de Kock, Riza Hendricks, Heine Klaassen, Keshav Maharaj, Aiden Markram, David Miller, Lungi Ngidi, Anik Nokia, Wayne Parnell, Dwayne Pretorius, Kagiso Rabada, Riley Lesotho, Bray Shamsi, Tristan Stubbs. And then the traveling reserves are Bjorn Fortuin, Marco Jansen, and Antile Pechelquayo. Let's get your thoughts first, Werner. What is your thoughts on the squad? A pretty strong squad. People were expecting probably either Temba or Rassi or Riza or one of the slower batters to perhaps miss out on this tournament. But Rassi's injury has kind of covered that up in a way because we don't know what the decision now would be if everybody was fit. So we are forced almost into go back into what we said we're going to do, and that is bringing Temba Bavuma back, obviously, as a captain, which we all suspected anyway. What's your thoughts on this particular squad, Werner?
Yeah, no surprises really. This is pretty much the squad I expected. Was wondering about Rossi if he was fit, who would be the guy to fall out. But obviously, with his injury, that makes it pretty straightforward. Bavuma just comes in for him, and then the rest of the squad is the players that have been playing over the last couple of series. So no real surprises. I think the traveling reserves, I would have liked to have seen one batter as backup at least. There are no backup batters. It's just Andile as an and maybe Janssen as an all-rounder option. So if we do have a couple of injuries to our batters, it'll be interesting to see how they shake it up. But fingers crossed everybody stays fit and we can play whatever they decide is our strongest team.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the batters, because they filled up this 15-man squad with quite a few with quite a few batters as well. We're sitting in a situation with almost seven batters that we need to pick from to fill that top six, because South Africa, obviously in Australia, will most likely going to want to play their two all-rounders. But we also see that there are some traveling reserves this time around. Bjorn Fontaine also getting into the mix again. Aditya, I'm actually happy about that because I actually think he actually deserves to be part of the first 11, the first 15. Sorry. I don't know right now in place of who, but before they picked Keshav, I would have said instead of Keshav. But now that Keshav is that leadership role in the team and he's been trusted, that makes it a bit tricky. But Aditya, your thoughts on the squad? Do you feel that the squad is a lot more balanced, a lot better than the first World Cup that we played a year ago?
I think this is a team for all conditions. They've got the players with the skill sets necessary to perform anywhere in the world, and certainly Australia. Um, I think this time around they've picked a squad that everyone sort of expected to be there and thereabouts. Uh, but I think Rassi van der Dussen's injury probably made the job of the selectors that much easier. And I feel for Rassi. I really feel for him because he's really been a solid pillar for South Africa and white ball cricket, including T20 cricket. Uh, but more than anything, um, this gives South Africa an opportunity to have an additional power hit in the team, possibly in the form of Riley Rousseau.
Mhm. I mean, you look at that team, Werner, you look at that squad, the selection is going to be so difficult because Temba Bavuma comes back into the squad, and we know that most likely that means that he will play. And that means that the opening positions are seem to be then sorted in if that's the case. Now, that means Rassi, Riley, obviously Klaassen is not necessarily in that category. Maybe perhaps you could put him there. One of them need to miss out. Perhaps even Aiden to an extent, but logically that doesn't make sense because of the extra bowling option he has. We know why, the cricketing reasons why he would keep his place. But if you think on in hindsight, there are a couple of guys that are going to be competing for a position now. And it's going to be very difficult to leave someone out. Riza Hendricks is currently in form. That's why I say this India series will probably decide who gets that first starting spots. This India tour, I think, will show form, and that form will probably go into the first team that they select in the tournament. Even though I would like them to approach it regards to conditions, and I would like to approach it regards to the field size, the conditions, the outfield, all of those type of things. I think are important to select this team because we've got so many different areas covered with a squad. I think you can play all different types of cricket with a squad and make a team, put a team together that can do multiple different things. So Werner, uh, looking at that top four, I would say probably because we're going to assume that 5 and 6 is probably Stubbs or Stubbs, Miller, Klaas, and Miller, and then you looking at your top four. What would you do? Does Timba walk straight back in for you, or are you also jury out? Depends on how he plays in India.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Um, I generally say that I probably wouldn't have Temba in my first 11, based on a batter as being a batter alone. I think Riza's in great form, and I think we do have other options that are more suitable to T20 format. But with him being captain, he'll definitely play. I think it's going to come down to will he open with Quinny or will he come in at three with Riza opening with Quinny. And it's a tricky one with him coming back because playing him and Riza means that somebody else is probably going to miss out. Because if you if you play both of them, let's say you open with Riza and Quinny and you bring in Temba at three, that means again you're probably shifting everybody one down unless you leave Riley totally out of the side. Because if you bring in Riley in at 4, then means Markram shifts to 5 and Miller to 6, and that probably means Stubbs gets left out. Or otherwise you leave Riley out, and then the rest of the order stays the same. So it's a very tricky one, with Temba coming back to decide exactly who are the main players you want in your top order. Because I would always play Stubbs, and Miller and that middle order as your finishing options, and Markram obviously. But then it's going to come down to, if they're bringing in Temba, then are they going to pick between Riley and Riza, or are they definitely going to play Riza because he's in good form and he's been doing well at the top of the order? Does Riley then miss out, or does the more inexperienced, how they love to talk about
Mhm.
experience, does that then mean that Stubbs was going to miss out, which would disappoint me?
Aditya, it's a funny thing. We were talking for years about we just need a number six. We need a number six, and then our batting lineup is sorted. We know exactly what top six is going to be. That we just need that one last piece to the puzzle. Now we found our finishers. We've got finishers from 5 to 6, 4 to 6, I would even say. Guys that can really smash the ball. And now we're struggling with the top order again. So South Africa don't get away from this drama. They can't find a way to get away from drama. Your thoughts on Temba Pavuma? Does he need a? If he doesn't perform, I mean, this is actually a panel question as well from Lawrence. But if he doesn't perform in India, for example, would you consider dropping him for someone like Reza Hendricks in the opening game of the World Cup?
No, I don't think that can happen.
Have to play devil
That's
advocate.
a so way too controversial. I mean, look, the truth of the matter is that the India tour is it's just going to be match practice for both teams because playing in vastly different conditions, and honestly, it's very difficult to place any value on what that series really means again for both teams because if assuming there are a couple of players out of form, what are you going to do? Is that enough evidence to really drop them in a tournament where your state of mind is going to be totally different, where you're playing in vastly different conditions? So no, I don't. And quite honestly, in India, I don't think there should be high expectations of Temba anyway. It's never easy for anyone coming back from injury, right? So we shouldn't be um, we shouldn't be too harsh on him if he takes a while because let that series be Timber's opportunity to get some game time, and that'll help him in Australia, where I think conditions will be a bit better for an opening batter.
Teacher, can you just maybe give us some insight? Because obviously the India tour is going to be an opportunity for us to prepare. Can you give us some insight into these grounds? Um, so we obviously play. Oh, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that.
Thiruvananthapuram,
Tiruvunanthapuram. Yeah, that one.
Thiruvananthapuram.
Guwahati. And then Indore. Indore.
Indo, yeah, Indo.
Just just normal. Look, I'm trying to be Italian. Indore. Sorry. So, like, look here. Can you tell me about these
Yeah.
grounds? What the conditions are
Okay.
like, etc.
So Thiruvananthapuram hasn't had a game in a long time, like a really long time. So the conditions are going to be new for everyone there. As for Guwahati, if I remember well, um, there was an India versus West Indies T20 game in Guwahati a couple of years ago, and that turned out to be that was quite a run feast, if I'm not mistaken. I think Virat Kohli scored in '94 in Guwahati, and it was quite an exciting game. So I would expect more of the same there. And Indo it's a small, tiny little ground where you know you can definitely expect scores of 250, 260 plus. So yeah, no
And
question.
with regards to the ball coming onto the bat from seamers, etc. Do you have? Is it more of a seamer, or is it more spinner friendly, or like do you have that insight?
I think there's something for everyone, but specifically in Indo, it's just going to be It's going to be a batter's paradise. I mean, I promise you, in 2017, there was a game where it appeared where Rohit Sharma got to his 100 in a T20 game in the 11th over. In the 11th over of a T20 game. And, everyone watching that game felt like this could be the first time we could see a double hundred in a T20 game. That's the sort of wicket it was. And I think it'll be fun. Indoor is going to be real fun. But
Okay.
I'm also excited to see what Thiruvananthapuram has to offer because there hasn't been an international game there in a really long time.
Mhm. Yeah, because we know that in Australia, Werner, especially the grounds we're playing at, some big grounds there, quick outfields. So we're gonna have to play a strategy that I think is actually South Africa's style suits that, because hopefully they do decide not to just stand and deliver all the time and try to run threes, twos, and keep that moving if they're struggling to get bat on ball. So Werner, from your perspective, the preparations into the India series first and foremost, what would you want to see from South Africa? F- how would you want them to approach those games in India? With what sort of mentality?
Yeah, I guess it's the last matches really leading up to the World Cup before the warm up matches. So I guess to get into a good headspace, you want to win, of course. I don't think there will be too much tinkering. I'm expecting that they'll try and play what they see as their best 11 from the start. Um, Maybe one or two chances. Maybe just try to figure out that top order. But I don't expect to see too many changes. I think what you see in the India series is probably what you'll see at the World Cup, unless there's like something really, or somebody's really struggling, or somebody gets injured, or whatever the case may be. Um, I'd love to see somebody like a Quinton de Kock regain some form. He's been in woeful form for months now. He's been terrible. He was poor for South Africa, and he's now been poor in the 100 as well. He hasn't been scoring runs, so it's going to be very important for him to get his confidence up because we do know he hasn't done very well at World Cups up till now. So hopefully this might be the opposite, where he maybe he's struggling leading into it, and then he gets form at the right time um, in the World Cup. So I'm hoping for that.
Also with certain decisions from the coach's side, I hope they make the right decisions because, from my perspective, looking at this squad, if they want Bavuma to open the bat, he needs to play every single T20 game and every ODI game against India. I feel majority of it, at least he needs to play 2 out of 3 T20s at minimum. But
He's the captain. He will play everything.
I would like him to play every single game, of course, for this particular India tour. I hope they don't decide to, like, oh no, you know what? We're not gonna play him. We're gonna play Riza, and we're gonna open him up with Quinny because they're in form. And then they got out of form, and then they decide, okay, in the World Cup we're gonna start Bavuma. I don't want to see that happen now, all of a sudden, because that will be heavily unfair. It will be unfair, generally speaking, just at the moment, because all of our batters are in form. Riza Hendricks, Riley Rousseau doing exceptionally well at the top of the order, and now Bavuma comes in and slots back in. A player that we have a lot of questions about with regards to strike rate. Like I said before, on that wake up and smell the coffee, They spoke about strike rates with Temba Bavuma sitting in the middle. They never asked him one question about it really. They had two batters on either side of him talking about strike rates. It was quite embarrassing, I would say, because I mean, what do you expect the guy to sit there and say? Like, it's like talking about uh, a robber around people that haven't robbed, and you expect the guy to just sit there and not take it in. So it's crazy. Like, what I would like to say is, I like the balance of the squad at least. I don't actually have a lot of qualms with the squad. I think the biggest problems I'll probably have is with the starting 11 now. Uh, I think that um, I think that Rassie van der Dussen missing is a blow to South Africa, from a perspective that he's been the guy at the World Cups and in pressure moments to turn things on for South Africa. We're going to need our skipper to step up and perform at the level that we require him to perform. And if we want to win this World Cup. And could there have been perhaps maybe a different decision made if Rassi was full? Now we will never know. It will all be speculation. Because if Rassi was fit and Rassi was available, what would they have done then? Who loses out their position in that particular case? It would be crazy to think that one of these players would have missed out if that is the case, perhaps. So it is it's a nice balanced side, though. We have the opportunity to pick winning teams with winning mentalities in every single game. We can do it. We have the players available to us. So I'm not so actually worried or upset about the selection necessarily, because I think that we have a very good side. And yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see, I guess, leading into this. Um, any other thoughts that you wanna? Anything else you want to say about the squad, Aditya and Werner?
Um, you know what I'd really like to see is whether they play Timber and Riza in the same 11 is, and I think the conundrum here is that, as much as we talk about the number of anchors in the team, the approach that I'd like to see is having, loading up your middle order in particular with power hitters. So I'd like to see if Riley Rousseau has an opportunity there, because he's also a left-hander. That gives you an advantage. Aiden Markham is a right-hander coming in at 4. And then obviously you have Miller at 5 and potentially Tristan Stubbs at 6. So how they manage that left hand, right hand balance is amazing. And if you watch the India versus Pakistan game on Sunday, it showed you it showed you the importance of having that. So I think it's perfectly set up for South Africa if you have Temba and Quinny opening right hand left hand combination, Riley Rousseau at 3, Aiden Markram at 4. Again, you have your right hand left hand, and then you have Miller at 5 and Tristan Stubbs at 6. So you have an equal number of right hand and left hand batters, and that's a privilege. That is a privilege to have in this day and age, because that can be your match changing dynamic, because it means that no bowling lineup will ever be settled against this South African lineup.
If they pick that at 6.
If they pick the 6.
And also at 7 and 8 too, isn't it? Doesn't Wayne Parnell bat left?
But I think Wayne Parnell's selection is always going to be determined by conditions, right? Unless you pick an extra spinner or whether you pick the extra all rounder. So you have a top 6 who you would assume takes the responsibility with the bat, and if they pick the top 6 that I just gave out right now, it's that X factor in a batting lineup that no other team would have.
If we pick both all rounders, that means one of our premier pace bowlers are gonna miss out, because if you have Pretorius 7 and Panau 8, that leaves you with 3 remaining spots between Rabada, Lungi, Norkia, and Shamsi. And Shamsi is gonna play. That means that's 2 spots left between Norkia, Rabada, and Ngidi. So I won't be surprised if they play the one all rounder and battle 7, and then bargain on Rabada at 8, 9 Norkia, 10 Lungi, and 11 Shamsi, or something along those lines. That won't surprise me. Maybe they go with 2 all rounders and then leave out Norkia, but it'll be tough on any of those 3, because all of them have been performing well. I think Lungi has done especially well in T20s. I don't think they'll ever leave out Rabada as long as he's fit, and Norkia brings something different with his pace. So it'll be a tough one to leave one of them out for an all rounder.
It's going to be a very difficult decision to make with regards to the bowling attack, because they like in every position actually in the South African squad, and that should make us happy actually, because there's going to be competition for places. Every single person is going to be sitting in a situation where there's someone behind them that can probably take their spot. And I hope that we don't just threaten. I hope we also back that threats up by, if a person is not performing well, that they do come out and someone replaces them. But there's this whole conversation about that, about in cricket specifically, about continuing with players even though they're out of form. And in a tournament like the World Cup, do you persist or do you drop? I mean, you can't drop a player every single time they perform poorly. So when is the right time to do it? How when do you know when to give a guy an extended run in the team and hoping that he comes right? Because Quinny at the moment, like Werner said, is struggling. Does he even deserve to start in India? Do we persist with him? Do we try a Temba and Riza opening partnership? Perhaps a Temba and Riley opening partnership, or Riza and Riley opening partnership? Um, are those options for you guys at all? Do you see that, or do you think that we just persist with Quinny, play him into form?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think they will persist with Quinny. I'm just hoping that he does find form because, uh, look, going into a World Cup, you want to have players in form. And in a World Cup, if a player doesn't perform, it's tough to drop him because you need some continuity throughout the World Cup. The best teams, the ones who end up winning the tournament, is usually the sides that remain fairly unchanged throughout. The guys who have informed players, those are generally the sides that are winning the World Cup. So I'm hoping that Quinny will find form. I don't think it's going to um, help anything dropping him and bringing in Riley, because that means that you're going to be forced to play Klaassen as well. So that's again two changes, and that means in any case that somebody else is going to drop out. So I don't think it's going to be a solution necessarily.
You see, guys, we want to give you every single option, lay it on the table, so that you guys can sit there on the day of the World Cup and you can say, you know what, I know what we're going to select today, and we can talk about it logically. I like it. Aditya, let's get to your final thoughts about the squad. I
Well,
think it's a bloody brilliant squad. I'm happy about the squad, but
I
what's
have
your
to say,
thought?
one thing about Quinny, that the last time I suggested that he should be dropped, we had the most dislikes ever for a show that we've done, and the fans went absolutely nuts on me. So bring it on again. I would love to see that. But secondly, I suggest that if we have
I
this
wouldn't like to see
conversation,
dislikes. Yeah.
but my second thing is that if you're having a conversation about dropping Quinny, let's do it a night before the game. Because as we've seen, every time we have this conversation, he actually performs the next day.
Yeah.
So let's absolutely roast him till, and before a game, and hope that he comes off the next time.
It's happened every single time, no lies. Every single time we've had a show and we've spoken about Quinny and being dropped, he's performed. It's ridiculously insane. I don't understand that. But anyway, I hope he's watching. It would be amazing if he is. But yeah, I think, guys, so far, there wasn't necessarily anything controversial in this particular squad selection because of Rassi's injury, I feel. If Rassi was available, I think we would be sitting here with a different conversation altogether. Because then at that point, who would have been the one that gives way for that?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm actually looking more towards the India series. The ODI squad is the only one that's so the T20 squad for World Cup I'm happy with. It's the one I expected. Looking at the ODI squad against India, which is actually quite an early announcement, but I would have loved to see Stubbs in the ODI squad. And also, I'd like to know when exactly did Klaassen again leapfrog Verena in the ODI setup. Verena has been averaging 41 in the ODI setup. He's played 10 innings, made 450s, highest of 95. How is he not part of the squad as the backup keeper for Quinny?
yeah, that is strange.
Sorry, I know
Uh,
it's a bit of a change of topic,
no,
but
no, no.
I
I
don't know
just
if
know
you've had a watch
it's a
at
good
a look at
topic.
the ODI
I just,
squad yet.
yeah, I'm actually looking at it as you speak. I saw something. Didn't I read out something about this? Captain, all 18 players will be recognized. 14 players squad has been named for the. Yeah. Okay, never mind. But it is virtually the same squad as the T20 squad, apart from Yanaman Malan, Riley Rousseau. That change, and
No
who else?
stubs.
And no stubs for.
The ODI squad.
Yeah. But I mean, for who? Who's
Pechlaquayo is in, I know, in the
is
squad, I
Pechlaquayo in
believe.
it? Then it's Pechlaquayo then. Temba, Kwani, Riza, Heinrich, Keshaf, Yanaman, Aiden, David, Lungi, Anrich, Wayne Parnell, Andile Pechlaquayo. Okay, so it's Andile. So they've kind of kept a similar. Do you think they're trying to do that? To try and give them extra time to the World Cup squad to extra time, extra game time by playing them by having them also in the ODI squad there? Do you think that maybe is the reason why?
I think the reason is we need Super League points. We need to beat India and we need to beat England when they come here in March, or what's it going to be? It's going to be February. Um, we need to win both series, and I think maybe 5 out of the 6 games or something like that to automatically qualify or be in the best position to automatically qualify for the World Cup. Otherwise, we're
Yeah.
going to have to play that qualifying tournament. So they probably felt they needed to play them in any case. I think the only thing that's not great for me is I would have liked the ODI series to be ahead of the T20 series because
Yes, me too.
directly following it is the World Cup. So it
Yeah.
feels strange to have the T20s and then go over to the ODIs just to go into the T20 World Cup. So I guess that's the only thing I would have changed. I would have swapped those two around, but I'm sure there is a good reason for it.
But especially with the style of cricket that we play a completely different ODI brand to our T20 brand. So it does, it does. I was also thinking exactly the same thing. I mean, obviously, having T20 games before the World Cup, competitive ones, is the best thing that you can possibly do. Unless they decide, you know what, the guys that are fringe in the T20 squad, we're probably going to give them game time in the ODIs, and then including Yanaman Malan, because for Yanaman being in there, means you one of the top three doesn't play from the T20. I'm talking about from the T20 team. So um,
Yeah,
we
it's
might,
look, it probably comes down to that they want to play mostly the same players that are playing in the T20 series, and because they will probably fly directly from there to Australia because it's so close to the World Cup. So
yeah,
most of those players will stay
exactly.
together. The only one that will come back then would probably be Anaman Malan. Pechlaquai is part of the reserve, so he'll fly with them, and then the only other two that will fly out is Bjorn Fortuin and Marco Janssen. So I guess that's probably the reason.
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, I mean, having Yanaman in the squad as an extra batter, like maybe, I know you were talking about an extra batter, you never mentioned Yanaman specifically, but instead of Marco Janssen, I think that could have been a possible option over there to have a traveling batter reserve to have that balance, because we do have two all rounders, and then we have a reserve in Adile. Why do we need um two all rounders on the bench? Is an option, is an interesting one, because you could have had a batter in case something happens. um, we don't know who the non-traveling reserves are. That wasn't communicated with us. So it would be interesting to see who's the next in line, next in line. Let's get your final thoughts over there, Aditya, and then your final thoughts, Werner.
I think South Africa picked, the best squad that that they possibly could. And like I said earlier on the show, um, they've got the resources to be able to succeed in all conditions. Um, and most of the players are in good form. So Temba has an opportunity with the India series to get back into some sort of nick. Quentin de Kock has that opportunity as well, and if they do, then I don't think South Africa need to be called dark horses to win the tournament. I think they can be listed as favorites to win the tournament. Because there's some serious balance in that team, and if they make complete use of it, they can go a long way in this tournament.
Yeah, I believe we have a strong squad. Most of them are the same as what it was last year. I think the additions of Riley Rousseau and Stubbs are both strong ones. I called out for Stubbs to be part of the Proteas setup in general at the beginning of the year, and it's great to see how far he's come along. And he's now gotten that opportunity. He's taken it against England, and he's made that squad. And now he's gained some experience overseas in England in the 100 as well. Got to interact with some of those overseas players as well. I think it'll do his game the world of good. He'll probably play in the domestic T20 competition as well for the Warriors. Um, Actually, no, scratch that. He won't because they'll be in India at that time. So never mind. Scratch that the last part. But he's in good shape heading into it. I think Riley Rousseau brings a lot of experience as well. He's very adaptable. If it's a big ground, he can run those twos hard, play that type of game. He also has the power game. So I think the all-round game he brings to it brings also variety to our squad. We haven't even really touched on Stubbs being able to bowl a couple of overs of spin as
Mm.
well if it's necessary with Markram. Fill in that's if somebody's having a bad day, can fill in for an over or two as well. Is a real all-round contributor. So I would definitely have him in my side all day long. But it will be interesting to see what they end up playing as an 11. It might not be what we expect. They might go Reza and Timba and leave out Stubbs or Riley, which I'm sure you'll see an outcry on Twitter. But whoever ever plays, I will be supporting them fully, and I kind of expect us to have a good World Cup. I just want us to not start slowly again. Use those warm up matches properly. Don't go and perform poorly in the first game like they did against Australia last year, and then play great the rest of the tournament, and then you're out in any case because you messed up in one game. So hopefully they sort that out. Make sure that they don't say at the beginning of the tournament, okay, we're not really looking at net run rate. Always look at net run rate. Regardless of when it is in the tournament, it always comes back to bite you. So make sure that if you're in a position to win a game quickly, win it quickly. Don't mess around saying, oh, we've got plenty of time. Let's take us to the 18th over. Let's just make sure that we get there, type of thing. I want them to be ruthless. But yeah, any case, I'm
Yeah.
going ahead of myself again.
No, that's good. I love it when you do. So let me get into some of the comment section as well, just to give you guys some airtime. We've got Brinkalas, Klusner, or Pollock back. Suraj Campbell saying Bavuma is the only batter who doesn't deserve to be there just as a pure batter. Players like Riza, Markram, Rassi, Rousseau, Miller, Stubbs, Klassen all uh, show them their mantle and their performance in the T20 arena. Bavuma is a liability, says Tivani. Bavuma is lackluster player in history of cricket, says Suraj. Definitely, says Tashin. Um, Lawrence saying, Werner, they're probably going to give Klassen game time in the ODIs against India. That's why they've selected him there. They should have given Rousseau to play ODIs. Also, that would have been an interesting one. I wouldn't have mind that actually, because I want him to play as much cricket as possible leading into this World Cup. David Miller or Aiden Markram should be permanent T20 captain, says Suraj. Madi says Bavuma making people have chest pains. Funny, Quinton de Kock has played 3 T20 World Cups, and in 2 of those had a strike rate of under 110 and average less than 20. But no complaints with him in the squad. Guys, we've had shows. We've had shows. I've been one of the guys that have spoken about it and been hated for it. So, Khalid, you're playing 11 for the T20 World Cup. I'm not going to give it right now. I'm going to do another show on that shortly when we are closer to the time. I have to think, guys, properly about that one. Harley can't wait for Thursday, man. Test cricket is back. Must win. We need the WTC points. So, talking about that, we'll do our preview for the game tomorrow. A full preview. Hopefully, Werner and Aditya can join us. But we will be doing our preview. I see I put him under pressure on air now. Now he has to come. See, tomorrow, if he doesn't come, then you guys know who to play, mate. But yeah, we're gonna do a preview tomorrow, talk about the game, get some insight and some stats as well to get some understanding of that as well. The oval, to see how we're going to play and how we're going to line up there. Keegan Peterson gave some interesting comments, which I'll cover tomorrow on tomorrow's show as well. And as well as the pre-match press conference, there'll be some comments there too from probably Dean Elgar ahead of the game. It's already talking about Bavuma Janssen in for Harman. Obviously, Rikoten comes in place of Rassi. Let's talk about that tomorrow, guys. Let's talk about that tomorrow. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you guys all enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to smash the like button and comment and share and subscribe and click that notification bell for all future videos, please. Also, don't forget to download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. This is the latest issue, so go ahead and download the latest issue. It's all about being a captain, guys, so go ahead and do so right away. Then I would like you guys also to become a patron to help us also promote South African cricket and grow South African cricket by becoming a patron today. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. Any previews in all of those type of things, reviews, features, all of those reports for the test, it's all on cricketfanaticsmag.com. We even have an England series section, so you can just click on it and see all the England series content that we have available for you guys. There's some excellent features on the site for you guys to get away and read right away. Particularly the features, guys, because that is evergreen content that you can read now or read after the tournament, and will still give you some excellent insight into our players and behind the scenes and what they think, and also the coaches and what they think. So, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to obviously do all the things that I did ask you for, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another preview show ahead of this third test between England and South Africa at the Oval. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you guys again very, very soon. Take care. Peace.